Hi, team. Hi, team. This is Dr. Miranda. Again, it is indeed a great privilege to spend a few moments with you. We are discussing certain issues. Excuse me. Oh, look at that. I went the other way. Excuse me. My goodness. But, anyways, we are discussing Brexit, um, namely the British exit from the European Common Market or from the European Union. Sometimes there is an actual distinction between the two of them. The European Common Market is basically the market in which they operate with one voice, one policy in terms of economic development, economic realities, global trade, of course, within its member states and within the union, so that there is a common European market or a common European Union. And then there is, of course, the European Union, which brings it together, common elements such as borders, right? Currency, foreign policies, and things of the like, right? It's the European Union. It's a very interesting situation is that it is trying to be a single union, a federation of all these countries, almost like a single country, but there is a major difference in that. And also, they're operating as a single economic market. Brexit. Wow. There has been an exit, of course. The British has said goodbye to the European Union, at least the British public has. And now the British government is in the process of detaching itself from the European Union as a political entity. Some have pointed to several issues that have led to the British saying goodbye. See you later, alligator. Don't want you anymore. This is a bad relationship. It was bad to begin with. It got progressively worse, and we just can't stand you any longer, right? The British cite the loss of sovereignty in deciding, who comes in the country, who doesn't come in the country. They cite trade issues, particularly the main issue of non-elected European Union officials making economic policies for the UK in terms of trade. The Brits, like the Americans and most countries in the world, are very jealous, very zealous about their sovereignty, and they have to be. Okay. And so the British decided overwhelmingly in terms of voting that we are not going to be part of the European Union anymore. And again, they're in the process of that. Um, some said that Greece is actually on the way out. Greece has actually calmed down some. Um, and so we haven't heard much. It seems that the agreements that they have reached with the European Union countries in terms of the implementation of austerity measures seem to be working. So Greece has been very, 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 very silent. There's also word of the Dutch leaving. There's been actually voting. There's been referendum where there was a majority of the vote to leave the European Union. However, that hasn't happened yet. Now, there are several variables. There's actually a deep amount of complexity in the issue. We have to look at the European Union historically has an anomaly. These are countries who historically have not gotten along. These are countries that don't like each other. This is going back to the Middle Ages, at least to the Middle Ages. These have been disagreements that World War I couldn't deal with, World War II couldn't deal with in terms of resolving these issues. These are amalgam of nations that have not really gotten along together. And now they're really trying to get along. They're trying to have a common currency, which most of them do. It's the euro, right? Uh, they're really trying to make things work. It's getting to the point, and this is a major push by the Germans and by the French, of almost to the point of Europe becoming a single country. Again, it's going to be a big stretch, and it's a lot of work getting there. Some have said, well, because of certain factors, we believe that the European Union will become a single federated unit, meaning have a single common market, which they have now, have a single currency, which they have now, but also a single foreign policy, which they do not have. Okay, and of course they have a single border, which they now have. So it's just a matter of time of, sorting out some political differences that they could have this union, or the European Union could simply break apart. Currently, they are. I mean, they represent over 700,000 uh, uh, in terms of a demographic market. It's a huge economic market. It's a mammoth. It's a giant. The European Union is nothing to quote unquote sneeze at or laugh at. They are a force, a tremendous economic force that no country in the world, I'm not talking about fear, but I'm talking about respect and appreciate the amount of economic force that the European has and the potential for even becoming bigger, because they are talking about, and they have, this is common knowledge, of having associate membership to countries who are not geographically in the European Union. For example, associate membership to Latin countries that historically are linked to Portugal, are linked to Spain, and some of them to France, and of course, England. So there's a lot of variables for you to discuss on why do you believe that the European Union, what's the future of the European Union? Is the European Union viable? But also, is the European Union viable in terms of international business? If you have a business, will you invest in the European Union? Would you open your company in the European Union? And how does the things that are happening right now in the European Union, how does it affect your company if you expand it abroad or even here in the United States of America? So there's several things for you to consider in this particular discussion when it comes to Brexit. It's not cut and dry, okay? There are certain things that we have to look at, okay? Remember, try to stay away from the fluff that we hear from the news. Don't use the news as your primary source. I never trust the news, right? You use peer-reviewed articles. You have tremendous publications. Google Scholar is one of them, and also the resources provided by IWU. You can go into the library. You can do amazing research. You say, but it takes a lot of time. No, it doesn't. Simply go to the library, the virtual library, and go into one of the business databases and put in keyword Brexit. You're going to come up with hundreds of beautiful peer review articles that you can look at, and then you can cite those, okay, and defending your position. So that's very exciting. And the future of the European Union is an exciting future, because I believe that the European Union is a major power force for good in terms of finances and bringing some type of financial stability in Europe. Okay, now Europe is facing tremendous issues right now, particularly when it comes to homegrown terrorism and also terrorism from elements that infiltrated their countries. Some try to frame the issue as a clash of civilizations, right? Muslim civilization versus Christian civilization, or pagan civilization, or whatever civilization. They're trying to frame the issue as such. They're trying to take an issue that's very complex, terrorism. I did my dissertation on terrorism and economics, and I can tell you right now, it's not an easy concept to grasp. There's a lot of things that goes into terrorism that are pop media, or feel-good media, or divisive media, or brain-dead media really doesn't have the time to examine, nor do they want you fully educated on the issues, right? So Europe is facing, some of those issues right now. Okay. Also, the particular future of the European Union is at stake, right? Are we going to see more breakaway republics from the European Union? Or are we going to see the European Union devastated? Was this just a puff dream? Or are we going to see a streamlined European Union, more powerful, more effective, more relevant, okay, and a tremendous power for good in the world, starting with their uh, 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 you know, region of the world? Now, we're talking not biblical prophecy. We're not bringing that into this particular discussion right now. Of course, there is a fit into some of the biblical narrative when it comes to end times and things like that. Particularly Daniel chapter 2, there seems to be a lot of relevance in that discussion, but it's a discussion for another module and frankly for another course. Um, but since we are talking about international business, what goes on in the European Union affects us here in America. We can't close our eyes and simply say, well, that region of the world is not applicable to us. Well, it is applicable because we live in a global society, okay? And one of the issues in international business is that we have become so integrated in the economic systems of one another. And remember, we have the major economic structure of global trade that we studied last week, right? The IMF, the WTO, the World Bank, and other organizations, right? Now we have become integrated. So what happens in one country affects us as a whole. And so we don't want a weakened European Union. No, we want a very powerful European Union. We want a European Union that's a stable European Union. Why? Because the more stability that we have in that area of the world, the better it is for America, the better it is for all of the countries of the world, the better it is for international business, and the less issues we are going to have, right? Some say, well, you are a globalist. Well, in a sense, yes. I believe that the genie is out of the bottle, folks. We can't put the genie back in the bottle, right? And this has been globalism has been a force, you can say, since, the creation of Adam and Eve, all right? With the trade routes going back even, as far as, the civilization that was built in Mesopotamia, right after the global flood. These things are a reality, right? There is something in the human psyche, something in us that we are always looking to expand, and we love to trade. And there's nothing wrong with trade. There's nothing evil with trade. We like to expand, right? We like to expand our borders. We like new things. We like to acquire things, and we like exotic things. And other people like things also. And so global trade is a good thing. It's a healthy thing. Nations, they usually trade with one another. They're not shooting at one another, right? Um, so again, going back to the European Union, this is something that we want to have. We want to have a strong European Union, a very stable European Union. Okay. Now, of course, some have said, "Well, you don't want a federated European Union." Listen, it's not my business. It's not your business. It's the business of the people of the European Union to decide, right? Normally, they are free societies, democratic societies, and in democratic societies, the people make up their own minds what kind of society they want to have. Okay, but the important thing for our discussion is how does it affect international business? Okay, well, it affects very much so. Even now on the Brexit, there's been some negative things. There's been some positive things. I remember when they first announced Brexit. Oh my goodness, people were crying Armageddon. It's going to be the end of the world. The European Union is going to evaporate. The United States is going to go into a sinkhole, and the world is going to change. We're going to have spaceships coming out of the sky. People are going to dissolve in the streets. Their eyeballs are going to melt. It's going to be financial Armageddon. Look, all that fluff, all that hype for nothing. As a matter of fact, the British economy grew right after Brexit. Okay, and of course there's been loss. Some businesses have relocated from the EU because they have better terms from the European Union, and of course these things are more political than actual financial realities. So there's a lot of wheeling and dealing going on. I mean, it's just part of human nature. You can't avoid it, right? We may not like it. Some of it may not be kosher, may not be ethical, I'm not excusing sin. I'm not excusing bad dealings. I'm not promoting bad dealings. I'm just telling you that unfortunately, in the fallen world that we are living in, this is how some of these things work abroad. Now, we also had a really great discussion about global products, and we're looking at that beautiful article by Dr. Levitt, Professor Levitt. And of course, we have to come, make a question to bring out a question is, do we truly have a global product? Okay, or all the products will be, henceforth differentiated by regional preferences or regional applicability. Let's take Coca-Cola, for example. Is Coca-Cola a global product? Meaning, can you sell Coca-Cola by itself in Japan the same way you sell Coca-Cola to China? Will the Chinese like the same Coca-Cola? Right? Will the Brazilians like the same Coca-Cola? Has the Americans like the same Coca-Cola? Or the Brits, will they like the same Coca-Cola? Okay. Is Coca-Cola, just, not Coke Zero or any other product, Coca-Cola, the classic Coca-Cola, which, by the way, I like better than Pepsi. Sorry, Pepsi users. I just can't stand Pepsi. For me, it's too sweet. I like a little bit kick, a little bit more carbonated with my Coca-Cola. But it illustrates well the global acceptance of Coca-Cola, that it doesn't have to be differentiated, right? Some just say, well, I like my Coca-Cola red in China. Red China. Okay, some of you will get that. You're probably going to laugh. But, it is what it is. So, Coca-Cola, right? Is it a global product? I believe it is. Another global product is an MRI. All right. The folks in Pakistan doesn't really care what an MRI look like, as long as it works. The folks in China doesn't care that an MRI could be blue or red, as long as it's an MRI. Folks in America don't really care. The MRI has to work. Okay. So MRIs, the MRI machines, those are truly global products. There is no need for differentiation, right? California may like to have flowers on their MRI, right? New Hampshire may like a different design on its MRI. New York may like a different look to their MRI machines, but essentially an MRI is an MRI machine, and it's accepted worldwide without any differentiation, right? So mainly we have medical products. Those don't need differentiation, right? We have things like Coca-Cola, okay? But then we have to keep in mind that was the outlook back then that Professor Levitt had, and a lot of people like to skewer that good man over fry, nice skewer, and then just bake them over nice little fire coals. How dare you, sir, think that all the products will become global products with no differentiation? That's not exactly what he was saying, because some of it is true, but not all of it. And that's the beauty of knowledge, particularly on those peer-reviewed articles, is that it changes over time. So part of it is also the truth that he knew back then. We have to understand that when this was written, globalism didn't have such a reach that it has today, and there wasn't such a demand for regional differentiation in the products, because remember, there weren't many of what we call true globalism today in global trade. It wasn't as pervasive. It wasn't such part of the integrative process. So of course he had a different point of view based on what the reality was of the market. So please don't burn the man at the stake in the discussions. Now, then we can say, I believe safely, and this is just my opinion. You also have your own opinion, and I will respect your opinion. As a professor, I do not pound you over the head and say, this is how you're going to think in my course. No, this is university. We don't behave like that, right? We're not fascisti. We're not fascists, okay? Now, The reality is we do have products that are shaped and are designed because of regional differences. Take Kit Kat, for example. Give me a break. Give me a break. Like that. Look, now that song is in my head. Oh my goodness. And I bet you it's in some of yours. It will stay there for the whole day. Now here's the thing. Remember this. This is very important. Kit Kat is a prime example of differentiation in certain products and how different countries and different regions, even within the different in the country, will have a different demand, a different a few they will want something different. For example, Kit Kat in Japan, they got soy Kit Kat, right? They have different flavors Kit Kat, right? And I'm talking about, remember that movie Cars 2? What is that little sauce? It's usually green, and you eat it with sushi. It just doesn't come to my mind right now. But when you put that thing in your mouth, your tongue melts. It's that bad. It's that hot. It's that intense, right? Well, guess what? In Japan, they have that Kit Kat with that flavor. Okay, now here in America, we don't have that, but I'm sure you can get it in an Asian store. Okay, certain regions have evolved their little twist on products that we love so much. Okay, and they are produced in that region. For example, you can go to a Costco and buy Coca-Cola made in Mexico with real cane sugar, right? That's differentiation. Is the Coca-Cola, but now it has real cane sugar in it. Differentiation, right? Certain cars have differentiation. Okay, we're going to produce a car differently to drive in England than we drive here in the good old USA, don't we? Okay, our cousin across the pond, they like to drive on the wrong side of the road. At least that's from our perspective. Okay, we're not going to sell them a car. It's made here in the U.S. for American drivers. It's not going to work. It's going to be very weird, different. Okay, so we do have today products that are differentiated. They're different from the main product, only they're slightly modified, either in taste or in color or in looks or in functionality. Okay, but they're essentially the same product, just with different regional variations. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing because you know why? You can have one product that is sold globally across the board, and then you can make more money selling the same product with different adaptations or variations for another market. You see? That's how you can make some good money in business. But it is an issue when the manufacturer or the seller or us or his producers and manufacturers of that or the marketing doesn't market it well. Okay? And on another course, we have some funny stories of people trying to sell their products and not understanding the culture in which they're sold. Okay? And it creates some hilarious situations, sometimes sad situations. But it is what it is. Okay? So how is it an issue? Well, the issue is that for the manufacturer, for the producer, or the if you have an international business, they offer certain services. If it doesn't take those variations, those regional variations in mind, it cannot strategically set itself apart from its competitors. And if you cannot do that, you don't have a business. Or if you have a business, a very stagnant business, and stagnant businesses have a way of going sayonara, goodbye, adios, see you later, alligator, and a wild crocodile. All right. So that wasn't very much doctoral language, but it is what it is. Okay. So my good friends, I'm looking forward to some amazing, continued, beautiful discussions on Brexit and, of course, global products, differentiation of products. I just want to commend you for your dedication. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me, and I will get back to you ASAP. Now, you have a beautiful day. God bless you.